Hello my buddies, welcome to a review video with Kim Tech. My name is Kim. Today I'll be reviewing the Reencle Gravity Home Composter after using it for over 1 month. This feedback is from my personal use with my daily routines, so my thoughts may be different from yours. And at the end of the video, I will share some tips on keeping your Reencle at its best. Before we start, I want to note that Reencle was kind enough to send me this product for free, but they have no input in my review. They didn't see this video or had any say in it before I published it. Timestamps are in the description box below, so you can skip to the sections you want. Okay, let's get started. I previously did a review of their first model, the Reencle Prime, which we still have. So you will hear me comparing back to that model throughout this video. If you're curious why I chose Reencle in the first place, please feel free to watch my review of the Reencle Prime after this video. But in brief, I picked Reencle because it has living microbes that break down our food waste with little to no maintenance needed, which fits best with our lifestyle. Out of the box, the Reencle Gravity comes with the Reencle Composter, a carbon filter, which lasts 9 to 12 months, a compost starter, a shovel, a sifter scoop, an adapter holder, a manual, a guide sheet, and a caution notice. The Reencle Gravity comes in two colors, silver and beige, and we received the silver one. The Gravity is bigger than the Prime. The settings are still the same with the 4 buttons of power, dry, purify, and open with ability to lock. Dry is used when the internal content of the stirring chamber becomes soggy with too much water. And if your Reencle starts smelling less like fresh earth and more like a science experiment gone wrong, tap Purify. It's basically a reset button for odors. The ability to open the small lid with the automatic sensor is still there. The sensor works a lot better on the Gravity than it did with the Prime, or maybe I just have gotten the hang of it. However, it seems like the small lid of the Gravity flings a bit stronger than the Prime. What's new is the small screen, which tells you the weight in kilograms of the kitchen scraps that you add and the time the lid has been closed since the last opening. You won't see the weight of the item added if you have the big lid open though, only when the small lid is opened. I think the weight display is supposed to help us add no more than 1.5 kilograms of food waste per day based on Reencle's recommendation, so the microorganisms are not overwhelmed, which could degrade the decomposition results. The weight display lasts for 1 minute or when the small or large lid opens, whichever comes first. As for the time display, it displays the elapsed time since food waste was added, maximum 24 hours after insertion, so you won't see 25 or anything higher than 24. One thing that I'm disappointed about with this unit is not so much about functionality, is that the small lid still doesn't have a sensor to tell me when my arm, plate, or bowl is in front of it as I'm trying to push the food scraps into the chamber. Sometimes I have the tea leaves, which are a bit wet, so they stick to the plate or bowl for a bit, and when it takes too long for the small lid's closure timing of around 10 seconds, it would close on me and whatever that I'm holding, which I really don't like. I hope Reencle will add a sensor to their lid to avoid this from happening in the future models. Next, let's talk about setup. It was almost the same as the setup of the Reencle Prime, which was simple and quick. The only difference is the power adapter for this is different, which is slotted into the holder for better cable management. Also, the other difference is that the Gravity comes with a compost booster. The booster looks like sugar to me. It also smells like sugar, but I didn't dare to taste it, of course, so I asked Reencle instead. They told me it is an organic acid that helps the initial stage of cultivation of the microbes. Due to this booster, Reencle said that the initial cultivation now only takes 3 hours for the initial setup of microbes instead of 24 hours. As for how it works, think of the Reencle as your kitchen's tiny, hardworking pet, except instead of kibble, you are feeding it food scraps, up to 1.5 kilograms or 3.3 pounds per day. Inside is a squad of hungry microbes turning your leftovers into compost. Once things break down, just scoop out the finished compost with a shovel, but don't get too scoop happy. always leave at least 1/3 of the bin full or to the minimum line so your microbes stay happy and fed. But here's the catch. Reencle cannot take every type of food scrap like your backyard garden bed. Some items are fine, others take longer time to break down, and some shouldn't go in at all. For example, coffee grounds and loose tea leaves can go right in. However, coffee pots and plastic tea bags are an absolute no-no. Even the biodegradable pots, because they usually sneak in chemicals that block your microbes from doing their job or diminishing the microbes from their full potential. So just make sure you stripped away any non-organic before tossing into the Reencle bin. Meats and seafood are totally fine, whether raw, cooked, or fried, but bones, shells, and scales are prohibited. The user manual includes a chart of what's acceptable and what's not, and their website guide is even more detailed, highlighting foods that may take extra time to decompose. Like pistachio shells and cherry pits are basically immortal when tossed into the Reencle. From my own trial and error, similar to the previous test with the Reencle Prime, cucumber slices vanished overnight and onion skins took a bit longer. The onion skins first shriveled up before turning into compost. And to my surprise, 90% of the pomegranate peels vanished overnight, and the shrimp heads and shells did great inside the Reencle as well, with their disappearing acts overnight, well, at least 99% of them. Depending on how thick the dry stems are from plants, you may not want to throw them into the composter because they are so dry and hard, so they don't get composted so well versus if they are fresh. I had to take out some stems that I threw in from my test. The smaller the pieces, the better, because the microbes work faster on bite-sized pieces. Larger pieces could jam the mixing rod, kind of like string getting caught in the blades of a blender. And one of my favorite parts of using the Reencle is the ability to throw in moldy food. If you've ever had food that you've forgotten about because they sit in the corner of your fridge where they have molded and you get mad at yourself for wasting food, well, now you can throw them into the Reencle and use that to recycle the unfortunate event into something useful. Once you've scooped out the finished compost, don't forget to cure it. Curing compost is key if you plan to use it for plants. Fresh compost can be a little unstable. To fix that, mix 1 part compost with 4 parts soil and let it rest for about 3 weeks in a breathable container. When it's crumbly, earthy smelling, and cool to the touch, it's ready. If it smells sour or feels warm, give it some more time. Based on an article from the Washington State University, fresh compost can damage plants, so compost needs to be cured, allowing compost that has been completed the hot phase of composting to finish the composting process. And when it comes to maintenance, it's the same as the Reencle Prime. The mesh filter will get dusty, and to remove it, rotate the lever counterclockwise to take it out, then rinse it with water. But please dry it completely before putting it back. If you don't plan to wash it, you can just take it out and shake off the content that stuck to the mesh for a quick cleanup. Be sure to not wash inside the bin and definitely don't wipe it with alcohol or disinfectant because your microbes are alive. And when the compost is to the max line, just scoop some out or to the minimum line and let the microbes keep mixing away. Besides the low maintenance, you also don't need to keep buying microbes. They self-replicate, which is awesome. If they start slacking off or get sticky and weird, check Reencle's YouTube guide or contact support. Worst case, you will need a fresh pack, but usually your little microbes may be able to bounce back. Let me know how's your experience with the Reencle, if maintenance is as easy for you as it is for me. Next, let me share with you some differences between the Gravity and its predecessor, the Prime, which are size, power usage, and noise level. The larger chamber size, which equates to a larger input capacity, means we can now put more kitchen scraps in the composter. The chamber size of the Gravity is 37% more than the Prime. However, as mentioned earlier, Reencle recommends us not to add more than 1.5 kilograms into the gravity to avoid overloading the microorganisms. The power usage on the Reencle Gravity is 1.128 kilowatts per hour, even though it's bigger than the Prime, which is currently using 1.25 kilowatts per hour. Even though it doesn't seem much, saving money while being able to have a bigger chamber for more composting is a plus in my book. And the final difference is the noise level. Reencle advertises Gravity to be quieter than the Prime by 4 dB. My non-scientific test shows that 1 foot away from the Reencle Gravity averages at 29.1 dB and 26.4 dB when 10 feet away, still quieter than the Reencle Prime. Overall, this product is a great fit for anyone living in an apartment or a condo with little to no backyard space. It's especially useful if you cook every day or even most days and don't already have another composting method. In that case, it can be a convenient way to cut down on food waste right in your own kitchen. And if you do have an outdoor space, traditional composting will always win. It's cheaper, better for the environment, and does not require plugging in a machine. But for anyone who deals with cold winters where outdoor compost freezes up, or who just want a cleaner way to process scraps without worrying about turning piles in the yard, Reencle gives you an alternative option. Just remember to weigh the long-term costs and maintenance to see what really fits with your lifestyle. It's noteworthy that buying a gadget like this is not impact-free. It uses electricity, it takes materials and energy to make, and one day it will end up in the waste pile itself. So if your main goal is saving the planet, this won't be the silver bullet. But if your goal is to handle food scrap conveniently, reduce what you toss in the trash, and make a bit of compost for your plants, then it might be worth it for you. In regards to how effective the compost from the Reencle is, I don't see any noticeable difference when using it to grow our small veggie garden, since the compost portion is too small unless you're growing a couple of quart-sized or pint-sized containers. However, I'm not much of a picky gardener as long as I can get organic compost or soil. With that said, I don't disregard how helpful the Reencle has been for us in reducing our food waste. If you're like me and don't have much of a garden space to bury your kitchen scraps, nor have another means to turn your scraps into something useful, then I think the Reencle is a great alternative. If price is a concern and you don't cook often or need the extra chamber space, but you still want the Reencle composter, then get the Prime, since the Reencle Gravity doesn't seem to be majorly better in terms of performance in comparison with the Prime. Thank you for staying to the end of this video. Before we wrap up, here are a few recommendations to keep your Reencle running smoothly. So, frozen food is a no-go. Cold scraps can chill the microbes into a sluggish sleep mode, slowing the whole process down. On top of that, frozen chunks are stiff, tough to break apart, and can even put unnecessary strain on the stirring rods. The simple fix? Let frozen food thaw before tossing it in and skip anything rock solid. Your microbes will stay active and your Reencle will run more smoothly. Next, if the microorganisms are greasy or if the mixture is oily, the microorganisms will not be able to decompose normally. In this case, you will likely need to replace your microorganisms. So to avoid this, refrain from adding too much food or oily food. Portion it out if you have to. And no super salty foods or heavy sauces. If you've got a saucy leftover, just rinse it first with water. Reencle recommends keeping things in a pH range of 6 to 8, but their patented microbes can handle a little extra acidity. A lime wedge here, a lemon slice there, no problem. Just don't go wild and toss in an entire bucket of citrus all at once, or your microbes might feel like they've been dropped into a lemonade stand. If you got a lot, add them in batches so you don't overwhelm your microbes buddies. Even too many fruits and veggie scraps can cause issues. A big pile of produce can make compost too wet or give it a sour smell. To balance things out, toss in some carbon-rich organic material like bread. Although Reencle says that we can add shredded paper or sawdust for the balancing act, I personally stick with something simple like bread. It balances things out without complicating the mix. And if you're out of town, the Reencle Gravity works just like the Prime when you're away. This means that if you will be gone for more than 7 days, stop feeding the unit 2 days before your departure so it can finish what's inside. On the day you leave, turn it off and unplug it. That said, I've left mine running for nearly 2 weeks while on vacation and it held up just fine. That's it for my review of the Reencle Gravity. Thank you so much for staying to the end of this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you do, please click the thumbs up and subscribe. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it down in the video. Thank you again for watching and have yourself a nice day or night wherever you are, my buddies. Until next time, bye!